sources with which they have been endowed. Now, in our way of life, there is also a great misunderstanding as to what constitutes a good life. To many people, a good life is an opulent life. It is a life of leisure. It is a life of extravagance. It is a life of being able to do exactly what you please, whether what you please is good or not. Therefore, all of the ambitions of the race are directed towards a superior social state. This in itself, of course, is related to karma. But who is to judge the karma? Perhaps this so-called exalted state is more or less an examination, a test. We have at some time or other earned a greater degree of security than some others have earned. So it's given to us. And having been given to us, we promptly abuse it. Therefore, we lose it again. You can never abuse anything into a permanent possession. Consequently, it is a kind of testing. Perhaps we have, through virtuous action, gained the right to certain benefits. In other words, good karma moves in on reincarnation. And the person who has done a good deed is the recipient of a good deed. And if we have achieved a certain management over lesser things, we will be given power over greater things. So it comes. And the moment we get the power over greater things, we proceed to forget our principles and abuse that power. Then, as Buddha says, who came and walked as a king will come back as a beggar. For things done and things undone. Therefore, there is no security in physical estate, nor is there any deficiency in the lack of it. It is very possible that the greatest growth will be done by people who will never even be aware of that growth as far as this life is concerned. They will be people you will never hear of, but people who conscientiously and with dedication try to fulfill the proper and reasonable responsibilities of life. By so doing, they contribute to the release of their own inner soul power. And as Gandhi once said, the great victory is the victory of soul power over brute force. Wherever we are self-centered and selfish, we belong to a level of brute function. But when we transform or transmute all the energies that we have into soul power, then we begin to live not for ourselves, but for the good of others. Gradually, by degrees, we recognize opportunities to serve. We become involved in patterns and circumstances that are a permanent good to others. And as in the case of most of the great teachers of the world, we become martyrs to the needs of others. All of these are part of a good preparation for the future. We are going to grow. We are going to fulfill the proper destiny which was assigned to us. As we grow in this way, we will find that a great archetypal pattern, Bhemi speaks about these patterns. There is an archetypal pattern of humanity. It is a magnificent radiant star, a magnificent living light. And what the human being is attempting to do with all others of his kind is to fulfill this archetype, to bring it into perfect incarnation in the structure of humanity itself. It is this pattern of the perfect humanity that the divine mind projected at the very beginning. We are here to be ye perfect. And to be perfect, the individual has to perfect his own nature. The problem of perfecting is, however, not, according to nature itself, difficult. And most persons in what they might consider a better environment would do much better than they do now. But the great victory is the victory of self over circumstance. This is the sign of strength. In the ancient mysteries, the neophytes for initiation, the candidates, were tested, even to the degree of physical danger. They occasionally were killed in the initiation rites because of the severity of them. Now, these rites no longer exist in the world. Many people are glad they do not. But others have also noticed with some thoughtfulness that these testings now go on the level of society. A lot of us lose our lives in attempting to achieve victory over the lower self. Everywhere there is testing. Everywhere there is crisis. And only those who gradually perfect their own natures come finally to become custodians of the larger truths, to become aware in substance and certainty that which the rest of us must dream about and hope for. But the testing of the individual is inevitable. Therefore, in this time, we are really very fortunate people. We don't really think so much of that at the present time, but actually a crisis such as we are in is definitely an initiation. It is a test, and each individual is going to react according to what he is. And each individual should note carefully his natural reaction. He should note whether or not this situation is bringing out something of his own higher understanding, or whether it is merely making him irritable and frightened. If he has no resource within himself to face change, then he should begin to search inside of himself very assiduously. He must find the victory of his own inner insight over the pressure of society. If enough people do this, of course, the social problem would be solved. But in time, enough individuals will gradually assemble so that the problems will instinctively fade away. But this will not probably be in one life or even a dozen lives. But ultimately, the changes in human reaction will result in the transformation of social structures. Society will emerge as a composite structure of a proper nature and purpose, as more and more individuals live for what they give and not for what they get. The Reformation, the universal Reformation, begins in man and must continue in man until the work is finished. So we say again, try occasionally to imagine, to visualize more or less what you would have done with your life if you could have lived it exactly according to your perhaps childhood hopes, the dreams that you had in the beginning, which were merely perhaps dramatized fairy tales. But actually the fairy tale is an archetypal dream, and in the long run we are all going to live together forever in happiness. But it's a long way off for the majority. But in this fairy tale life, think back to what you would have been before ambition got you, before the pressures of other people affected you, before your dreams were blighted. What did you want to be? What kind of a person did you want to be? And in your early teens, before you got set in too heavy an educational pattern, what would you have liked to do with your life? What kind of a career would you have chosen if the economic factor had not existed? If it hadn't been a problem of earning a living, what would you have preferred to do? If you're one of those people who perhaps would have preferred to do nothing, then you better take on the responsibilities of the moment. But if you already had dreams, and they were blighted, and there were instincts to creativity, I know people in late life who are writing very beautiful poetry. Poetry seems to be one opening that comes through. Sometimes an individual has had a poetic instinct all their lives and never actually wrote 4 verses until they were over 60. but it's there. Others find, as the responsibilities of raising children and things of this nature, that the old dreams come back, that there was something they always wanted to do. Some of them wanted to travel, some of them wanted to teach, some wanted to go into religious life, others wanted to complete imperfect or interrupted careers. But everyone wanted to do something. And when they do that something, nearly always there's little or no satisfaction unless that something they want to do is a common service. It is something they want to share. The poet wants to share his innermost feelings with anyone who will read his poetry. The actor wants to share his reactions to the drama that he participates in. Everyone would like to have a field of expression, an expression that is worthwhile. Now, this expression may be censored by a lifetime of frustrations, and it may be that by the time we get around to it, some of the edge and ambitions of our inner lives have become quieted. But everyone can do something. Everyone can make some kind of a creative contribution. Perhaps no one will ever know about it but you. But if you do it, not merely talk about it, but do it, you will find that there is a great release within yourself. An individual who can develop a good creative outlet will probably never need psychological or psychiatric care. They will release from themselves, and everything that we release from these little plants, which we call our personalities, will either be flowers or fruit. And the flowers represent the simple expression of the beauty in ourselves, and the fruit represents the contribution we make to the common survival. These things can help us, but we must come to the conclusion that deity in its infinite wisdom was not interested in creating a lazy creation. It didn't want to make a world of people trying to escape responsibility and hoping to cut down working hours till they do not do anything at all. This is not the divine plan. And if we frustrate this divine plan enough, the punishments will get heavier and heavier. But we are going to change and we're going to learn before we get through. So the easiest and the most purposeful thing is to learn now, to get started at it, to do the things that we have within ourselves. Go into your own depth and find out what's there that you could use to make a more beautiful life. That you could also find the ways of sharing life, getting over prejudices. One problem, of course, is that the prejudiced person nearly always carries many years of irritation or disillusionment or anxiety over things that may have happened so long ago that everyone else has forgotten them. But prejudice is not beautiful. Prejudice doesn't help. It only locks the individual in negatives, and it closes to the mind that is prejudiced all the beauties of the area in which that prejudice controls. If we are prejudiced against people, if we're prejudiced against arts or crafts or of religions or races or anything of this nature, we are simply cutting off part of that one glory of life which we should understand, should accept, and should be able to use in the development and maturing of our own consciousness. Clearing up prejudice, opinions, getting over old grudges, do anything possible to take false pressures off of your own subjective life. For it is only when the false pressures go or cease that the true pressure of the divine life within can come through. It is only possible to move from the inside out when we stop cramming everything from the outside in. As long as we build our entire life upon outside circumstances, the inner life has no chance. It goes along until we depart from here, and in due time it comes back with another body, But unless we allow it to speak, we will never know what our real destiny is. And we will be pushed about by the common attitudes of unenlightened persons. But even these unenlightened persons are growing also. Everything is growing. It is a magnificent unfoldment, but it exists on many levels, and each individual must try to function on the highest level available to his own consciousness. And at the same time that he is doing this, realize that the higher his level of consciousness is, the more perfectly he will understand all whose consciousness is less than his own. That which is above always understands all of that which is below, because it cannot get to the above without passing through the below. And in the basic subjective of the entity, all conditions of achievement less than our present level exist. And by calling upon our inner life, we develop a great sympathy for the lesser. And instead of looking down on it, we regard it as a parent might regard children. As Pythagoras very wisely observed, there are only three relationships in life. He says, there are those who are wiser than we are, and they are our parents, regardless of whether they have any blood relationship or not. Then there are those whose knowledge and wisdom is equal to our own. They are our brothers and sisters, and we exist with them in perfect equity. And there are then those also whose knowledge is less than our own. They are our children, regardless of whether they're related to us or not. They are our children, and we shall instruct them. So there are no other relations in life. And the individual who has the proper outlook or in-look upon life will realize that it is one very beautiful picture, a wonderful, sensitive, sympathetic situation in which we are all bound together by the strongest possible ties and separated by the weakest possible separative factors. As we gain more understanding and sympathy for this, I think we will find more of our place in the plan and how to cooperate with the divine purpose. Well, I guess that's all for this morning, folks. Now, I've got an announcement I'd like to make. I have a little announcement I'd like to make. It's a very disturbing and discouraging announcement, no doubt, but I'm going on vacation. I've had about 5 vacations in the last 40 years and spent 3 of them in the hospital. So this time I'm going out. I'm going to do something very rugged. I'm going to rest. So for the month of August, I won't be with you. And during that month, John Irwin, a friend of 40 years, who is now succeeded Dr. Drake as Vice President of the Society, is going to take the Sunday morning sermons or discussions. He is a very well-equipped man. He is profoundly concerned over the Jungian system of psychoanalysis. He has widely experienced in religion and also in law. And I think that you will find that he has many very interesting things to talk about, and I hope you will give him a good attention on the Sunday mornings while I am out taking it easy. In the meantime, don't forget to visit the bookshop and the various activities we have here, and I hope that you will be present each Sunday and during the month of August, because I'm sure you will find John Irwin's material highly accurate and very thoughtfully presented. So we wish for him a successful month while I am on vacation. Thank you very kindly.